Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey everyone, happy Monday and welcome back to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute, a podcast that celebrates the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. And this season we are diving into Blazing Saddles, one Tex-Ma'am minute at a time. I'm your host, I'm Alan Sanders.
And I'm Walt Murray, your co-host.
And we are so pleased to welcome back Megan Baillie. Megan, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here joining us on this The Wilder Ride and getting a perspective of somebody who loves the movie, but also loves Madeline Kahn and loves comedy and slapstick and actually gets it. That's always a lot of fun, too. So let's continue where we left off from Friday, because Madeline Kahn was up on stage singing away, getting ready to entertain the cowboys in the saloon, in the Rock Ridge Saloon. So where we left off, she was singing a line about tired of playing the game. So we'll start off with this minute, Ain't It a Crying Shame, where we're going to end with a drunk coming up on stage. Oh, Miss Lily. So let's go ahead and start rolling through this. And the first thing I get to is this whole notion of her finishing up that lyric that says, ain't it a crying shame, I'm so tired. And then she decides, you know what, I'm just going to sit down, and she's like,
God damn it, I'm exhausted.
Yes.
Well, now I can see a little bit more of that pit that you're talking about.
Yes.
I was gonna ask, do you see right behind him the hats of the men that are playing the music?
Yeah, I do. So that's a little bit more visible in this minute than it was in the last.
And it definitely is going to play throughout this. We're going to see back and forth the guys on the stage and realize that she's on that little L-shaped catwalk almost that comes out from the main stage and circles around the orchestra pit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I always just, in my head, had it as just a regular flat stage. But yeah, now that you mention it, there is that little, I guess, 3-man orchestra, 5-man orchestra there.
Mm-hmm.
At around second 15, when she gets this little bit where she's now going to interact with the crowd, we've got the guy with his boots up on the stage. And I'll say, before we even address this scene, you are absolutely correct, Megan. In the very back center of the frame, at the very top, you don't see their faces, but you see two ladies that look like they're dressed up, maybe employees who work at the saloon. Maybe they work upstairs. I don't know, but they certainly are back there in the very back of the audience.
Yes, yeah, there they are, in those dresses.
Yeah, and they do kind of look like they would be employees. One of them kind of has a feather-looking thing, like a boa around her neck or something. So they probably are there to work.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if they're waiting tables or if they're waiting upstairs, but they certainly are in that typical barroom saloon atmosphere.
Someone's got to serve the beer, boys.
That's right.
That's what
I thought that was Anal Johnson. He always kept things nice and clean. All right, I got to ask this question for you, Megan, because I have a big background in theater and then have moved into film and video. Have you ever had somebody in the audience, if you've done a stage play, decide to put their feet up on the stage?
No, I actually haven't experienced that yet.
Oh, it's always a lot of fun. We did a show, and it wasn't necessarily feet on the stage. We did a show, 12 Angry Men, and it was in a black box theater setting. And if anybody doesn't know that play, it's really about 12 jurors who are retiring into the jury room to decide the fate of the case they've already heard. It's a great play. There's been a couple of different movie versions, an older black and white one, and then there was an HBO movie updated with George C. Scott and Jack Lemmon, which is fantastic. It's just a bit modernized and updated. But for us, our stage play, because the script called for a water fountain, like a water dispenser, to be put on stage. Well, it was right close to the audience where it was to keep out of eye line for the audience. Somebody all of a sudden in the middle of the show thought, well, that must be the water fountain if you're thirsty, got up and literally filled their cup with water during the performance.
What?
Yes. It was right there at the edge of the stage, up against the wall, because it was a black box theater. In his mind, I guess he just thought, well, it's right there in front of me, and they're sitting there over there talking. I'm just going to fill up my water. He just reached over, and started giving himself a glass of water. It was awesome.
That is awesome. My question would be, what was he drinking before water?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'm amazed by the number of people that have no sense of theater etiquette.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't done theater in a long time, and I think I mentioned to you before we started recording that I just booked a show for Fringe, the Fringe Festival. So this will be the first theater I've done in quite a while. So we'll see.
Well, break a leg with that. That's
Thanks,
awesome.
I'm very excited. It's kind of like a zombie apocalypse live theater thing. So
should be interesting. Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. You know, I know you mentioned that to me earlier about, or actually, sorry, you said Friday. You talked to us on the episode that you didn't necessarily gravitate towards singing. You did more of the theater or the more acting, the drama side. That's been me my whole career, and I've hated it because in Atlanta, which is where the biggest city that we're close to, where we record here, it is so much musical theater that if you are a theater person, it's really hard to find just straight shows. Everybody wants to do a musical because they just make more money. I guess they're more popular. And so it kind of forced me to have to go more into the film and video side, which I actually like a whole lot.
Yeah, I prefer film and television to theater as well.
It's a different style of acting, though.
Totally different. Absolutely.
You know what? This actually is a great place for us to comment on how Madeline Kahn is approaching this entire performance, because the way she's sort of overdoing everything is exactly what you would expect from a stage actress.
Exactly. Yep.
Because later, we can see she does much more subdued when she's not performing for a crowd.
Exactly. And I think that's why her performance in this whole movie makes me really happy, just because it is overt, but also subtle. She manages to hit both of those notes. So it's very well done.
All right. Well, this is a line that I think a lot of people quote about Tex Ma'am.
Hello, cowboy. What's your name?
Tex, ma'am.
Tex Ma'am. Tell me, Tex Ma'am, are you in show business?
Nope.
Well, then why don't you get your friggin' feet up?
I know I've heard you even say this line. Is there a reason why in your mind that this always stands out as one of those quotable lines?
I don't know. It's just a funny line, and she delivers it so well. And I don't know. It just always catches me as really, really funny. I think it's well written and well timed, and it shows what a good comic actress she is.
And everybody in the crowd loves the fact that she basically has her way with this cowboy. Basically, he's like, "Get your friggin' feet off the stage," and they're all like, "Yeah!" Even the dude thinks, "She touched me." Oh, he's like got this goofy grin.
Yeah, she must really like me. I'm a Mr. 1001.
I'll never wash these boots again.
Well, you know, the actor there who plays Tex Ma'am is a guy named Craig Littler, and he has 34 credits. And he's kind of an interesting guy because he played in like everything from the 70s and 80s. But he started in about 1963 on General Hospital. And then he was in a movie called Rosemary's Baby.
Ooh.
Yeah, which is a real classic.
That's a real pick-me-up, family-friendly film.
Yeah, don't watch that one alone.
Yeah.
He had a small part on Marcus Welby, MD. He was on Mannix. But then he started picking up after Blazing Saddles. He ended up on a couple of different TV shows. He was in a movie called Grand Jury, where he played a thief in a laundromat. He was on the Hardy Boys Nancy Drew series, Laverne and Shirley.
Wow.
One that I have never heard of from 1978, Tarzan and the Super 7.
I've never heard of that.
I have never heard of that one. He was on an episode of Wonder Woman. Alan, you may remember this one from 78 and 79. He was on 28 episodes of a show called Jason of Star Command.
I know that the name of that show. I don't think I ever watched it.
Yeah, I'm kind of aware of it. I think I watched a few episodes and it just didn't really do much for me. And then he went on in 82 to be on the Dukes of Hazzard. He was on The Love Boat, multiple times between 77 and 83. He was on a show called Riptide in 84.
Loved Riptide.
Yeah, which was
I
really
loved
good.
that show.
But I think it was only on like a season or two, right?
It was a couple of seasons.
Yeah, and then Airwolf. He was on the TV series Dallas. And then his last show, the last thing he did apparently was in 1997. He played Webster on an episode of Team Knight Rider, which was a animated series. He has basically retired at that point.
I got to go back to Riptide for a second. I loved that show so much, and I think it was because as a kid, I was still, when they come out, like I said, 84, so I was like 14 when it came out. And they had that old Russian Sikorsky, but they painted it pink, and it had like the big mouth on the front, almost like a big giant pig.
Oh, yeah, right.
You remember that?
Yeah. I do remember that.
That was a Stephen J. Cannell production. It had Frank Lupo, Perry King, Joe Penny. Those were like the main people. It was basically it was another take of the whole private detective. They were trying to capitalize on the popularity of all those kind of cop shows like Magnum PI and stuff. But I liked Riptide.
I did too, and I just don't remember it doing
what
much.
I remember about it. I like.
Yeah, I'm looking at the poster for it, and I don't know that it would hold up. So,
don't you remember they had that one geeky guy that had the robot?
Yep.
And so it was sort of that first time you had like the two, I don't want to call them hunks, but I mean, for lack of a better term, you got the two sort of like athletic, the beefy detective guys, right? But they had to have the brains to show the little bit of a difference of their show. Like they had the nerd, the computer guy who had the robot who could help them solve things with this was like when they were first starting to use computers and things to be able to kind of do things to track people and solve the mystery.
Okay, so here's the tagline for it. The cases of a private investigations agency run by 3 Vietnam War veterans armed with toughness, their own helicopter, and the third's technical ability. So you basically just spelled out their whole tagline there.
Yeah. I may have to try to see if I can ever go back and binge this show just to see if it's as good as I remember or if it really just falls completely apart.
Well, it was on from 84 to 86, so it ran 3 seasons, and it still has a 6.8 rating on IMDb. So I guess people who've watched it the last few years like it, or maybe just a bunch of people are voting who think it was really good.
Well, I mean, Joe Penny went on to have a pretty decent career. Same with Perry King. Never saw Tom Bray again, at least not that I remember. But I know Perry King did a lot of like 4 TV movies and stuff. So it didn't hit him with such a label that he never worked again or something.
Yeah, no, and Joe Penny's still working. He the last thing he was in was in 2016, and something called The Last Night In, which I doubt anybody has seen. And so, yeah, I mean, these guys are still around. Perry King, I think, is he's still working somewhere. He was
the last thing I remember he did was actually a Western called The Divide.
The Divide, yeah.
In 2018
right.
Came out. He played Sam Kincaid.
Yeah, so he's still working. Oh, and he was in that terrible movie The Day After Tomorrow.
That was such a bad movie.
You would think that would have ended anybody's career. So,
well, that was what was it? Those guys that did Independence Day. So they got in the idea of let's make everything bigger and better and more special effects and make the disasters ginormous. And they screwed that one up. So they went and did all the other movies that still didn't make any money.
Yeah, they really screwed that one up. Yeah, and just to round that out, Tom Bray, the last he did was Leverage. Some kind of movie, the TV series in 2012. And before that, he did something called Stripperland. So his career has not taken off. And he was in a movie called Barnyard Commandos. So he's really struggled.
Well, but the movie that he was in that I get, because we're all big. Well, I don't know about, let me ask Megan, are you a fan of John Carpenter films at all?
You're losing me a little bit. And this is
okay.
Can you give me a list of some of his films?
So things like on the horror side, he came up with Halloween 2, The Thing.
Yeah.
He did The Fog. He also did Big Trouble in Little China, which was a great action kind of movie.
Yep.
And he also did a sort of E.T. ripoff, or not really an E.T. ripoff, but it was like his version of a space movie with Jeff Bridges. And now all of a sudden the name just popped right out of my head. Starman, which was fantastic. I forgot Tom Bray actually was in one of the lesser known John Carpenter flicks that I think is a great sort of techno horror film, Prince of Darkness.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. I love doing movies by minutes. Makes me want to go back and now watch a bunch of other movies.
You start your list, it's like, oh, well, I give up. I can't go back and watch all this. So anyway, that's Craig Littler, the guy with his feet on the stage.
All right. See what happened, Megan? This is what happens when you get a little bit older. You go on these like rabbit trails. And we like to call it nostalgic remembrance. Most other people go, God, these old guys just have completely lost their minds.
No, they're just tangential thinking. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, and it's that vast wasteland of a brain that we have that it's like I can't remember anything at work, but I remember Riptide from 1983.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, all my college education, I don't know where it went, but boy, I can remember the TV shows of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Well, it's good stuff, you know? But yes, to answer your question, I guess I do. I definitely like the Halloween movies. And there was one other one you mentioned that he did. Oh, The Thing. I also liked that too. So I've seen his horror stuff, I guess.
Oh, good. Well, if you get a chance to see some of the other films he's done, The Fog was fantastic. Christine, the adaptation of the Stephen King book about the car.
Seen that? Yes, I've seen that.
That's John Carpenter. He almost always has that kind of synthetic soundtrack sound that he loves to do, the whole very monotonous kind of music. Just all of his soundtracks, I think, are fantastic. He's one of those guys that's just a gifted musician. And in fact, for the last couple of years, he's been basically on tour doing the music of the films of John Carpenter.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That is cool.
And Wolf, I know you're a big fan of his music.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I not being a very musical person, it always grips you. But, I was just thinking about the movie The Fog. That is one creepy movie. I mean,
it
is really good. And I'm not a big horror person, but that is a good movie.
Yeah. Oh, let's not forget another John Carpenter flick that's on the action side. He loves Kurt Russell, by the way. Escape from New York.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Which, just to put a plug in for them, I'll be on the Escape from New York minutes coming up here in a few weeks.
I may have already been on the Escape from New York minute because I think we both have separate minutes.
That's right. We do. Yeah. So that's going to be fun.
But let's pretend that he never made the sequel, Escape from LA, because that is just abysmal.
Ugh, that is garbage.
It is. That is a dumpster fire that is actually on fire.
Megan, if you want to see a horrible movie, there is actually a scene in it where Kurt Russell with an eye patch has to play horse on a basketball court. Is that right? No. They play a full court game, right?
He has to play a full court game and score within the time. That's not as bad as
big punk rock boots and an eye patch, and he wins.
Yeah, well, that's not as bad as surfing lava.
Yeah, that's true. That's pretty bad. I mean, by that point, you're just like, screw it. This is a garbage fire.
Oh, I was so disappointed after being so excited to see a sequel to Escape from New York. But all right, we have digressed, as Megan has pointed out. We've been a little tangential in our thinking. So
a bit.
The next person Madeline Kahn, getting back to her, talks to, before she does that, what the hell is she doing with her? Is she clearing her voice? What is she trying to do here musically?
I don't know.
See, I could do that.
All I can think of is they were like, just do something that sounds horrible.
Yeah, right. Just sound like a dying cat.
But is this a musical technique that she's making fun of? I mean, was there things like, I mean, we know in jazz and blues, and it slowly made its way into rock, we heard this whole term of scatting, and then you had like Scatman Crothers where you could do like the ba-ba-da-da-ba-ba. But what the hell is this?
I think you're giving her too much credit to even liken it to that.
Maybe so. I've never seen a performance where all of a sudden it's like she's trying to do like the warm-up bars that you hear sometimes backstage before a performance, but she's doing it in front of the audience as if it's part of the song.
It is so weird, and it is bad.
Yes.
Oh, it's horrible.
Weird and bad. Two things you don't want in the same.
Right, you can have one or the other, but don't have both.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to stop right here before she talks to the guy, because now this is one of those generic questions about reality versus a movie. We get she's supposedly the buxom bombshell. She's the blonde bombshell. She's up there with thousands of men always wanting her, being with her. When you hear her sing, are you entertained at all?
Well, no. But I think if you keep in mind that, like you said earlier, these are guys who have been on 100-day cow herding. They don't have radios. They don't have, I don't think they have record players at the time. So there's probably not a whole lot to compare it to.
Is this Mel Brooks making a statement? Because he's offending at some point or commenting on everything and everyone in this movie. Is this a commentary just in general of how pathetic men are?
Oh, whether intentional or unintentional, yes.
Megan laughed, but I need to hear what she thinks about that.
So my thought on that, I don't know. I mean, I think it can be an easy thing to make fun of, I guess.
Yes, we are.
Easy target.
We are easy targets.
Right? Especially if, he's writing it about other men. It's easy to poke fun at yourselves.
I mean, I will be 100% honest on this. I mean, in general, I think this is a statement. Like, nobody's caring about her singing ability whatsoever at all.
No. She opened her legs at the beginning of the performance. It's all going downhill from there.
I mean, she's strutting around in basic, Victorian era lingerie, which, by the way, unless you were in a whorehouse, women would not be like this in front of men in public.
Right. That's true. So they're all they're a little dumbfounded.
Maybe just heavy on the dumb.
Well, one of the things I was reading earlier today was talking about the different forms of entertainment in the West. And most of the entertainment was either gambling, brothels, or when you had something like this, it was usually kind of bawdier shows. So oddly, this is sort of historically accurate. You might actually have something similar to this. I would assume that they're not there primarily for the music.
But, I also, and maybe it just depends on the timing. So, talking to Jim Dunham, who's a historian and a cowboy at heart, said that a lot of the shows that would go around would have Shakespearean performances, and they would have things like that. If you remember in Tombstone, which, Jim Dunham said is actually probably in terms of the costuming and the set and everything is probably the closest in terms of accuracy of an Old West or a Western movie. I know he told me that these singing acts, these performing acts, that you would have people doing monologues from Shakespeare. They would be doing scenes from, maybe the next musical, or they were doing songs from Stephen Foster. So it wasn't, I don't think, just bawdy. I mean, I think there is a definite piece of that. But I also think it's interesting that historically you would have a lot of cultural shows moving from town to town as entertainment.
Yeah, that is interesting. You don't really think of the cowboys going out to watch Shakespeare.
Right.
Yeah, but another thing that if you remember, if you go back and watch Tombstone, the language you would think of these cowboys as being these ruffians and stuff, but the language and the use of language was so much better than what we have today. Mm. And they used a lot of very high, I don't want to call it high language, but they had a much wider vocabulary than I think we give them credit for. And I think Tombstone does a very good job of illustrating that. But there's some other, I think what was the Deadwood?
Oh, yeah, Deadwood. Mm-hmm.
It has that same thing where what Jim Dunham had said on that was the Cowboys certainly didn't use the F-bomb like they do for a modern audience to watch a show about the Old West. But he said that I think in Deadwood, he said in terms of their formal use of language and their vocabulary really was well represented, that they spoke at a much higher level than we do today.
I believe that.
Yeah, I could see that too.
So I think to be fair, it's like a form of a variety show, right? And variety shows have kind of always been popular, and it's a good way to like encapsulate culture in a certain amount of time. So I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think what we're getting is the satire in this scene and in this movie is it's just one performance of one person. But I think in general, it would have been one act of many for the evening.
Right, exactly.
All right, so she goes to this next guy here right at about second 40. And this is another one of those gags. As a kid, I never got it. But apparently because of where he's got his hat, it's a definite...
Hello, handsome. Is that a 10-gallon hat, or are you just enjoying the show?
Right.
No.
Yeah, there's that leaves nothing to the imagination. We know where that one was going.
Yeah, save for the fact that I'm awful jealous of anybody that can fill a 10-gallon hat.
Megan, I apologize.
You're fine.
I forgot to warn you about my host.
No, it's okay. You're all forgiven.
I mistreat everybody equally.
This is true.
I told my wife this. I said, because we're big fans of Game of Thrones, and every time that they have like a male walking around without any pants on, I'm like, I could never be on that show. I'm not gifted like that.
I mean, at least you're humble.
No, I mean, they could put me on Pee Wee Herman and Did You See It? But that's about it. You could be on like one of those, Where's Waldo? We'd be playing a different game, but they're the same questions there. Where is it?
I feel like we're getting really close really fast.
Hey, it's cold. Leave me alone.
This is what I'm saddled with.
Oh, Walt, you're going to play that card right now,
yes,
are you?
I am. Hey,
I'm going to encourage Megan to go back and listen to the rest of these episodes, and we'll see just what a liar you are.
Oh, God.
Well, and by the way, that actor who's sitting there and has no lines is George Holmes, who has 129 credits.
Oh my God. Are you kidding? Let me guess. A lot of them are going to be TV shows, especially things like Bonanza and stuff.
Okay. Buckle your seatbelts. 1937 was his first credit, and it was a movie called Thin Ice. He was in I think it was a Western. A Western. It happened at Flatbush in 1942. He played all kinds of parts. He was in Guadalcanal Diary. He was in Those Enduring Young Charms, whatever that is. The Falcon in San Francisco, The Spiral Staircase, The Falcon's Alibi, Dark Alibi. Let's see, we get a little bit more towards, here's 1956, The Life and Legacy of Wyatt Earp.
Oh, wow. So a lot of these are either Westerns or certainly period pieces. Yeah,
and he definitely had that Western look, kind of the strong jaw and everything. In 1960, he was on the TV series The Untouchables. He was in a show called The Lost World in 1960. Let's see, moving forward a little bit more. He was in the movie The Comancheros. He was in the 1962 version of Cape Fear, where he played an uncredited attorney. 62, he was in the TV series Cheyenne. He was on the Andy Griffith Show, which is still one of my favorites. He was in, where's the one I was looking for here? There's so many here. 12 O'Clock High, the TV series. My Favorite Martian in 1964.
Okay, that's definitely not a cowboy thing.
Not a cowboy movie. The Virginian. That was. He was on the TV show Gidget, where he played a party guest. He was on the Dick Van Dyke Show. He was on the Wild Wild West TV series. He was on the Munsters. Batman the movie in 1966. He played a club patron in that dance scene that they had.
This guy's been one of those like day player working actors his whole life.
Yes, exactly.
He was also on Batman the TV series, Mission Impossible, My Three Sons, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., goes on and on, The Love Boat, The Poseidon. Okay, so here's one that I thought was interesting. 1972, he was in The Poseidon Adventure, which is
with Gene Hackman.
With Gene Hackman, a great movie. He was in The Sting in 1973. And then, of course, this Blazing Saddles Police Story, Columbo. So he was one of those guys that basically was in everything. He retired in 1982 and in 1985 passed away at the age of 66.
Oh, young guy still technically, but how many credits overall did you say?
129.
That's amazing. That is just a guy who just was always cast in things. He must have been one of those just agreeable guys that everybody just said, put him in this part, put him there. We just need a day player. And he just lived a life of a working actor.
Yeah, and I'm going to correct myself on something. The movie It Happened in Flatbush was about a washed-up baseball player who played for Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's get to this last little bit here of the song, because now Lily decides she's going to try to do, I don't know what the hell this is. She's just going to try to hit a note and then kind of go up one octave. I have never heard a more flat note in my life.
That is weird. Did she improvise that, or is that in the script?
It is not in the script. In fact, one of the things we'll get to tomorrow a little bit, I've been saving all of the lyric changes because what they decided on at the last minute, Mel Brooks really beefed up the song. If you go to the script, this song would only be about 1.5 minutes long with what's in the script. Instead, it turned into about a 5-minute performance on stage.
Wow.
Yeah. So while I don't know what this is, Megan, is this a secret lady cat call that allows the drunk to know it's his turn to come up on stage?
It's not one I'm familiar with, but we do have quite a few in our toolbox. No, but I think he seems convinced that he can give her some well-earned rest. I'm not sure what he's doing. But I don't think it's anything she did that's making him joyous.
All right, I'm going to try to walk this line tightly. I can only think, knowing Mel Brooks and knowing how much they like to improv and play on the set, is this Madeline Kahn trying to musically pretend that she's starting to hit that Shangri-La moment, and that's what's got the guy all turned on in the audience?
I think it's just alcohol.
Yeah.
I think he's just blitzed.
Well, yeah, for him.
Yes.
But I can't figure out why she's doing what she's doing.
Oh, I don't know.
She keeps, her voice goes higher and higher, ah, and then he's oh, Miss Lily. He just, there's nothing stopping him. It's like the trigger.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard singing like that, I'll be honest. I think maybe it's just lack of talent on the part of Lili von Shtupp.
Yeah.
Von Shtupp.
Well, I got a little bit of trivia here, and that voice is not the actor talking, according to some of the notes I have. Now, this is obviously unsubstantiated until I get Mel Brooks on the show, but I have a note here that says that Mel Brooks actually voiced the drunk coming up on stage. That oh, Miss Lily. That is Mel Brooks.
And that may be why whoever the actor is who came up on stage is not credited.
Yeah.
Of course, they don't seem to credit anybody. There are 8 people credited for this movie. So, but it does not sound like Mel Brooks to me.
Do you hear what he says?
Yeah, he's saying something about, oh, Lily. And I think that's all I can hear. So
what I have here written, and it's really hard to hear because she's singing, they're laughing, he's just kind of doing that guttural thing. But what I have is his exact lines were supposed to be, oh, Miss Lily, oh, my pussycat, put it there, baby, put it, and then, oh, as he gets kneed in the nethers.
Yeah.
I'm
and if you
glad
look,
they changed those lines because it could have easily been misheard and come across as something it wasn't.
Well, they didn't change the lines because that's what I see in mine with the closed captioning on.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Walt.
Okay.
That's the lines. That's exactly what he says.
Interesting. Okay. What's in the script?
I said I was going to get into the script later, but I will tell you this. There were several things they were going to do in the audience that they instead decided to do differently when they went to go shoot. But they didn't have a drunk guy coming on stage, but they had a drunk guy that tried to maybe grab inappropriate parts of her from the audience.
Oh.
but they chose to tone it down a little bit instead. I like this. One thing I do like about this is when the drunk comes up on stage, it does show you that this is not the first time that must have happened, and that she is more than capable of dealing with some big brute coming up on stage trying to take advantage.
Yes. Yeah.
I think anybody who's worked in these kinds of places, this is probably not, it's probably not common anymore, but it's probably also not unusual. They're probably not caught off guard by it.
Right.
All right. Well, I know that's pretty much where we end. We're going to continue with, and we don't really get to see her knee him just yet. I kind of jumped ahead into tomorrow because I can't help it. It's one of those things where it seems like one big scene, and these are one of the only problem, Walt, of this format. When you have one long scene like this, it feels like you should do it all at once instead of break it up into 1 minute at a time.
Well, and of course, this is one of those movies that I want to talk about the whole thing all at once every time because it's such a great movie.
All right, so before we wrap this up, because we are out of time, Megan, I got to go to you first. You are our guest. You've been fantastic. You came back from our Friday last week and to join us again on Monday to really set this week off right. Anything else in your notes for this minute that we missed?
I mean, no, I think, again, we kind of hit on all of it. We explored some tangents, and it feels pretty well-rounded. But I think I agree with you that it's like, you know, there's so much more in this scene. But yeah, no, I think we covered it all.
Walt, what about you?
No, I think we've covered everything I had.
Well, the nice thing is we're going to be able to continue to chat about this scene, and I will before the end of the week. I'm going to tell you all of the differences from the script. I want to get through the whole theatrical performance before we do that, so that'll be by the end of this week. I will be able to tell you what's going on. Tomorrow, our guest is going to be Tierney Steele Callahan, so you're going to definitely want to tune in for that. We've got her for 3 minutes coming up. But before we wrap up, Megan, you were a guest on a couple of shows, and you've got your own podcast that's in the works, if not already out by the time this episode airs. Why don't you tell folks a little bit about it?
Awesome. So, yes, the podcast that I have coming up will be the Bohemian Rhapsody Minute, and yeah, should be coming out. So stay tuned for that. I don't know if it helps to give you a place to find me, but the best place to find me and information about the Bohemian Rhapsody Minute will probably be from Instagram, and I'm under a Homo sapien. So the word hummus, and then apien. So
you like hummus, do you?
A human made of hummus, yes.
That's awesome. We're big hummus eaters in our house too. That's a great little snack with pita chips.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. All right, Walt, where can people learn? It's Monday. Where can people learn a little bit more about us if they want to maybe tell us what we've missed, what we've gotten wrong, what we forgot to talk about, or they want to compliment us, which rarely happens?
Well, I was going to say out of that first group, that probably isn't going to happen. But if they want to compliment us, the best place to do that is facebook.com/The Wilder Ride. From there, you'll want to join our listeners group by clicking the button and answering a couple quick questions. Then we'll let you in, and you can comment on stuff. You can check out all the things that folks in the group are posting, and then any important announcements that we might have, any interviews or anything that are ready to go up, we will post there. And really welcome you to join that and get involved in the conversation. Also, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, please invite your friends, because anybody who would enjoy Mel Brooks, Gene Wilder, any of these folks or these movies, we'd love to have them as a part of the group.
And I encourage you all to come back tomorrow, Tuesday, for our new guest. And we're going to start off in the minute. This is going to actually be minute number 57 with Put It There, Baby. And we're going to end with Bust Your Balloons. And it's going to be the continuation of this performance for the folks of Rock Ridge in the Rock Ridge Saloon. But for that, you got to come on back tomorrow for this, The Wilder Ride.
Alan, are you in show business?
No.
Get your feet off the podcast.
Get your voice off the stage. It's just horrible. All these guys are going, I don't care what she sounds like. She sure looks pretty.
That's all they care about.
Yeah, they're ready to tune her out.
This is the Rock Ridge Saloon. I think this is the same one where Mongo was.
Well, they cleaned it up fast.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't remember seeing the stage there.
Don't you remember the staircase? If you look back at around second, like I said, when we first pause and we see the ladies in the background up through about second 21, you see the staircase going up where the guys were all bent down, and then there's the angle where the piano was being shoved up against the wall.
Huh, yeah, you may be right.
At least until somebody writes on us our Facebook page and tells us how full of crap we are.
Well, that's nothing new.
That's showbiz, babe.
And now all of a sudden the name just popped right out of my head. Oh my God. And I have to pull all this out to make me sound smarter when I get done with it. What was that called? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and I can't think of what that was.
Starman.
Yeah.
Which was fantastic. Oh, we're getting a sort of, I'm getting my voice coming back around on me now.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you sound like far away. Walter, you hearing a double?
Yes, I am. I'm getting some sort of feedback.
And we didn't have it before. Okay, now it's gone.
Is it sound okay now?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was that, Megan? Was something come up on your screen or something?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what that
Well, whatever it was, it's gone now.
That is weird.
Technology.